What is going on? What is going on? What is going on, party people? It is your boy, Coach Dee Brown, former big leaguer, former first round pick with the Kansas City Royals. And man, when I again, I keep telling you when I come and started when I started this platform, this podcast, this whatever show, whatever you want to call it, I always wanted to bring on the best guests to inform my parents the best way that I knew how. If it comes from college coaches or if it comes from ex-pro guys or anything like that. So, which is kind of crazy, man. Dealing with different guests that you have on, they always, start, giving me other guests or suggestions I should have.
Mhm.
All right. But one of the things, especially when we're doing this recruiting process and, we have you on this college side, we have COVID and got a bunch of things going on in this world today. I felt it, I'm very excited to have this next guest on here to help with, just explain her program. Um, we're dealing with this brain. You guys know a couple weeks ago we had my boy Paul Phillips talk about his company. It was more on the baseball side. Now we're gonna flip to the academic side, which you and I both know from the baseball side of things, and it goes to getting scholarships and college baseball in general. Academics is huge, and we talked about this big time yesterday. So I can't wait to have our guests, kind of explain and talk about her program. All right. So without me just running my mouth, I got Tina Dorius from Metacognition Academy out in Alabama, and
Hey, Coach.
Tina, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Though definitely. So Tina, like I always do, all my guests, I have to have them go back to the beginning and just give me a brief summary of where you're from and your background,
Yeah.
and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I've always had, first of all, I'm a first generation college student. My mom is an immigrant from South Korea. So my emphasis on learning and education started from a very young age. I knew that it was my ticket out, right? So very much I had that mentality, certain goals to meet. I knew scholarships were my only way to college. And so I ended up going, I had a full scholarship to the University of Oklahoma, got my undergraduate degree, went straight into law school at the University of Alabama. And there it just kind of progressed. I understand the importance of early preparation and exposure, right? And after I understood that this is a market that a lot of parents don't understand. There's so much confusion. There's two different industries, right? There's the college industry, but there's also the athletic industry, right? And they combine, but follow all of those rules together. And so once I discovered that, it really just, turned my passions into reality. And I became this academic director for a few football prep academies.
Awesome, awesome. So dealing with football, and now we're talking on the baseball and the high school side. You're dealing with college athletes and on the football side, on the baseball side. What have you seen the difference when it comes to getting into schools and the academic side and requirements, anything like that, man? So if you could kind of tell a little difference, and then we'll get into baseball specific ways
Got you.
that's needed.
Right. So we know that everything is driven by money, right? So college sports are money makers. Nobody is really doing this out of the genuineness of their heart or whatever, right? Football scholarships are a little bit different because generally those programs are bringing in more money, right? So baseball is a little bit different in that sometimes the admissions process is going to be stricter because there's just not that leeway, right? So there's one admission center for every university or college, and everyone has to go through that funnel. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-star high school athlete or a national merit scholar like I was. We all go through the same funnel, right? So you're all fighting for admission spots. Baseball guys are fighting for the same admission spots that football guys are, right? And so you just kind of have to weigh those things. Like, I try to think of what value are you bringing to the college, right? So baseball players, if you can have I typically see this, and I don't want my football players to hate me, but typically I see that my baseball players have the higher GPAs, and they have the higher ACT, SAT scores. Or like if we're gonna work together, it's typically the ACT, SAT score is the issue, less so the GPA. We can talk about why that is. There's, it's a little controversial, but typically the baseball players I see, it's mainly about the ACT, SAT.
So, I mean, now, we hear this when it comes. So what are the basic, let's just kind of put it out there. And I know most parents know this, but what are the basic, just to clear, just for yourself to even receive any type of, scholarship admission into the school? What's the basic, grade, GPA or ACT or ACT score that you need to get into school?
So, and I would encourage everybody to check out this website. It's the NCAA high school portal. It's the eligibility portal. I can actually leave a link for your parents there, so that they can hit, because this is the official one. And even if you Google NCAA eligibility, if you hit the first link, it's actually a private company. It's not even the NCAA. So just be careful about when you read information, make sure it's officially from the NCAA. Go to the primary source always. So anyway, if you go to that website, it'll list it out for you. But typically for D1 athletes, we're looking at a 2.3 GPA and about an 18 on the ACT. I'm going to give some insider info. I like to use the ACT over the SAT. And that's because the SAT has 2 math sections that will be included in the test, and the ACT has 1. And so I find that typically a lot of the students I work with, math is not going to be their strongest subject. So the ACT is a little bit easier for us to prepare for.
Wow. I mean, and why is it territorial like that? I will get into, but why is it I never even heard of the ACT except for,
right. So SATs are typically I think it's just a marketing thing because they're 2 private companies, right? So the SATs were just more heavily marketed on the East and West Coast. And I'm originally from Los Angeles, from California. And so, I prepped for both. But the ACT is kind of, in the South, it's a little bit bigger regionally in the South and the Midwest. But the NCAA does not care at all which test score you use. And typically, the colleges and universities don't either. They'll accept either one.
All right, good deal. So when you get, we talked about this yesterday, the base, whatever, but why is it so important to make sure that, the GPA, you get the highest GPA and the highest, ACT or SAT score that you can get? You talked about the particular schools and how they feel about, bringing in kids and stuff like that, because some people say, oh, my kid has a high GPA, but the ACT scores are so and so,
right.
So why is it so important that, these baseball parents should, besides, we all know how important it is, but I want you to come from the school aspect of it.
So I like parents to understand that college academics and college and universities as a whole, we have our own annual rankings. And the US and World News report, it comes out every year. It's like our AP polls, right? And they factor in many different things, and included in that are incoming GPAs and incoming ACT and SAT scores. And so you cannot, all the athletes that come in will also have to submit those scores. And then the colleges and universities get graded as a whole, right? And if the colleges try to omit or exclude their athletes' scores, they're penalized. So they get 10% off. So they have to count them, right? And like I said, we're all going through the same admissions funnel, right? So I just happened to look up my alma mater, OU. What was their incoming freshman profile, right? Average GPA was a 3.6 was that.
At Oklahoma?
Wow. Yeah, at the University of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And And so, you just have to consider those things. The average ACT score was at 25.8. And so when you're an athlete and you're thinking about NCAA minimums, which are 2.3 and an 18 maybe, you have to understand that the admissions center is still looking at you as a student body whole, right? So you're still being compared to the average student, which is the 25 or 26, hey coach, and that 3.6 GPA, right? So it's like applying for a job. You really have to be the best candidate. You have to look like the best, because that's a gatekeeping. The NCAA requirements are the basic minimums you have to get just to get through the front gate, right? But past that, you still have to get through the admissions center. You have to show why you're going to be a great candidate. They have to know you're not going to fail out after the first semester. You have the work ethic and what it takes. They have requirements, like you're going to have to keep a certain GPA to keep your scholarship, all these things. And so basically what they're trying to see is, can you handle it? It's a pressure cooker for sure, but also, can you handle the academic rigor,
Nice. So I wanted to kind of, talk about, speaking of academic rigor and what's going on right now with COVID and, with these athletes now. I know we talked about, are the colleges kind of looking at, like everything is kind of homeschool now, right? You got some states and stuff, people are kind of physically there. You got normal school, but you also have a lot of, kids, including my own daughter, that are doing online courses now.
Right.
Are the colleges looking at some of these online courses and the type of, we've done everything from Liberty University to, a county, the local county online courses and stuff. Do colleges look at those type of online programs differently? Like, oh, this is more, challenging, or this, or they all the same across the board, especially when it comes to GPAs and getting into schools now, especially with this COVID time?
Right. I mean, I think at this point, we're kind of like in the Wild West of academics, right? So I think at this point, as long as your school and the courses are NCAA accredited and you have the GPA, I think colleges are good, right? But you bring up two great points, which is make sure that you're going to an accredited school. A lot of these schools are not accredited, either regionally or by the NCAA. And you run into huge issues. If your courses are not accredited and accepted by the NCAA, you cannot get a scholarship, period.
Wow.
That's a tragic situation, right? Then
are they being schooled this though, Tina? Like, so if I'm, a junior, senior right now in high school, and, I'm picking online courses and stuff like that, is that something that as a parent, I need to make sure of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you can't even count on, I've had charter schools that are not offering NCAA accredited classes. They're fully operating public schools, but they're not complying with the NCAA standards and the academic review. So the NCAA chooses which of the classes that they're going to accept as part of their core GPA curriculum. And then your school has to, like every year, annually submit that, hey, our classes are legit, right? We are complying with your standards. So again, please, I always tell parents, go to this website, the NCAA eligibility portal. The website link is awful. It's like web3.ncaa, but hopefully we can include the link below because it's kind of long and convoluted, but parents have to check. Every program you're in, it's very easy to look up your high school by name, by state, and by zip code, and just make sure, check. If your school's not on there, ask your school counselor why. Your school counselor has the answers. If you can't find it, ask your school counselor why. And then maybe they'll be able to correct a problem they didn't even know they had, but it becomes a problem for sure.
All right. This is the link. Is this the link right here?
Yeah,
right.
That's it.
So I wanted to kind of get into, we talked about this, and you kind of hinted a little bit, but with a different level. But I wanted to talk about you know, I want to dig a little deeper with these parents and understanding, especially with these online courses, and which is huge right now, and post grad, we are hinting about the post grad, and everybody is talking about doing online courses and stuff like that.
Right.
This is how bad are some of these courses out there? Is it and again, you given a link, but I believe a lot of these schools, we talked about this yesterday, a lot of schools, high schools and stuff, they're not prepared for what's really truly going on. You would think they would be more prepared with the whole COVID from the springtime, but there's still a lot of schools around the country that are doing online courses, but these county online courses are not right. Can you dig a little deeper into that, please?
Yeah, and so to be completely transparent, my company does offer NCAA high school courses, virtual and self-paced. And so that's how I know a little bit about this particular issue. And so a lot of the public schools, as we know, have been thrust into fully virtual or hybrid virtual situations, and they're not prepared for that. Virtual schooling is, everybody's doing the best they can. I'm not trying to hate on any schools, but virtual schooling is something that needs to be super user friendly, right? And I think that that's not translating in a lot of these virtual schools. They're trying to treat it like a textbook when they should be treating it like a mobile app or like a game, right? Because you can teach the same content in a different format and it's easier for the user to master, right? The student to master. And so unfortunately, we're in this situation where I think a lot of these schools are trying to do too much. They're trying to get you to meet all these meeting times, do all these projects. You have deadlines and different platforms you're supposed to be on. Nobody can keep track of everything. You start missing a couple assignments, suddenly you're failing, you're panicking. It's just a nightmare. I know because I went through it myself. I had my son do the public school virtually. I thought I could handle it. Of course, I'm a higher ed professional. This is what I do. And it turned into a nightmare. It took about 6 weeks until he was failing 3 courses. And we just felt like there was no road back. It was so stressful for all of us. And it was like a light bulb finally hit me. I said, I'm just going to enroll him in my own program. And we did fine because it was self-paced. He did it on his own time. He was playing hockey early in the morning, afternoon practices, etc. He fits it in on his own schedule. There's no looming deadline. If he's feeling really great academically one day, he can knock out 6, 7, 8 assignments. If he's not feeling it one day due to traveling or whatever, he gets to take a break. It's really geared to be what virtual school should be, which is about making sure that the student is learning, not trying to trip anybody up or getting them to meet these random milestones, right? We're trying to make sure, and are we preparing them for college, right?
No, this is this is the same thing in our household too. It's kind of, the first online we were taking early this year, you had to, my daughter had to sit from 9 to 4 o'clock with 15-minute breaks in it. Yeah, and then
that's crazy.
Yeah, and it was like
someone didn't think that through all the way, because even as adults we can't do that. So why do we expect our children to be able to do that?
And I've had teachers, here in Atlanta area tell me straight up, like, we have to change this because this is crazy. I can't sit here.
And this is my concern. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought this up because since the NCAA is like saying, okay, we're waiving ACT, SAT scores this year. We're just relying on your GPA. So now we have a bunch of students who think they don't have to take it, right? Now they're relying on their GPAs. Well, guess what? Their grades are not good right now. They're failing right now. So the problem is doubly compounded. Now you don't have the ACT scores and you don't have the GPA. And how are you going to cover that? Frankly, I'll say, I think my program is the solution. We've been around since 2006. Really cool, It was actually an African-American woman who founded and started American High School. It was the first virtual academy in the country, the first virtual homeschool academy. And it expanded. It's global now. And we have an incredible relationship with them. And we tailor our programs so that athletes can succeed. We understand that student athletes have two objectives, and that's to meet their athletic goals as well as their academic goals. And one doesn't have to exclude the other. A lot of times they complement one another.
So speaking of the program and getting the start and everything, what are all the programs that you guys do provide? Because it's not just the homeschooling aspect of it. You guys also do multitude of things. So if you can explain some of the programs that you guys have.
Sure. So we have our ACT prep programs, and we have two different types. We have a boot camp style, where we have kind of 4 sessions of 3-hour crunch, crunch sessions, and we hit it like that. And the reason we do that is because on the ACT, there are 4 subjects. So we want to make sure we have designated time to hit each of those subject areas. Then we have our extended boot camp, which is 40 hours of instruction. And we do that specifically because the research has shown you need to put in at least 40 hours of studying on the ACT to increase your score from 2 to 4 points. So you have students thinking, I'm going to increase my score by 10 points, and they're not even studying. And the research is clear, you got to put in at least 40. I like to 40 for a baseline, to really see what students can do and then work from there. But yeah, we'll have classes where we make sure, it's a 10-week program. We're doing 2 sessions twice a week. We make sure you fit in the 40 hours.
Wow. So, and parents, you guys all know this from a baseball side, how important the SAT and ACT is. And I talk about this regularly about, just taking it just, as early as you can, as often as you can. What's your, what would be your game plan, with if I'm an incoming freshman, right? Because everybody seems to think I'm gonna wait till the end of my junior year or senior year to take the ACT or SAT, test. What would be your advice? What would be like a great game plan for that 14-year-old that just entered high school or is thinking, basically that 14-year-old entering high school or that, sophomore? What's the game plan?
Right. So, quite frankly, as a freshman, I would begin putting aside time every week to just start exposing myself to the ACT. The ACT, it's a game. It's a game. It has its own specific set of rules. I love to tell my athletes, okay, would you go to, a tournament without knowing how many innings are in a game or how score is even kept, right? Or what is a foul ball, what is not? You would never show up to a game completely unprepared like that, right? So why would you do that for the ACT? That's crazy. Don't do that. It's important, right? As a freshman, I'm going to start trying to learn the rules of the game. How long is this test? It's about 3.5 hours, right? So mentally, we need to start gearing up to take a 3.5-hour test, right? I want to start talking about, what is that timing like? For the English section, it's about 75 questions in 40 minutes. So you're going to have to answer a question in about half a minute, right? So you got to start timing it. So athletically, right? Just how you train athletically to get faster and faster, you're doing the same thing academically. I like to call this, this is my playbook. This is all you need to know.
That big old thing.
If you start working on this book as a freshman, think of where you'll be as a junior versus you're a senior and you've got 2 weeks and you're trying to cram this in, right? It doesn't even make sense. And that's not really how the brain works. The brain works like every other muscle in the body, and you do foundational work and you build upon that, right? So as a freshman, I'm already going to start doing once a week, just do some practice questions. You can Google them. They're free, you just Google free ACT questions, free practice ACT questions. The ACT actually recycles their tests every 7 years, right? So you hit enough practice tests, you might see the same question on the actual exam. You never know, right?
Wow.
And then more specifically, like I said, it's like a language of its own. The stuff it tests for are specific for it itself. Like I wouldn't even specifically, I'm not necessarily the SAT master. I'm the ACT master. This is its own language. This is its own game. You know, you went pro in baseball, right? But, and I know you had football, you know, knockers at your door as well, but you didn't go pro in football. It's a different game, right?
Right.
Same thing. I want people to understand this is a game. It's very specific. So focus in on it like that, right? And so by my sophomore year, I want to get comfortable taking it. You know, I would go ahead and start planning to take my first practice ACT, maybe like summer of my sophomore year when not a lot is going on, right? So I can spend some time preparing for it, gearing up, going through a book leading up to it. And then by my junior year, I definitely want to knock out one good test by my junior year. Because, you know, really admissions decisions are starting to be made already, you know, January of your senior year, you know. A lot of admissions deadlines are December of your senior year in high school. You got to start filling out the FAFSA October of your senior year in high school, right? Everything is like a year ahead. You have to plan a year ahead. So in my mind, you know, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Make sure you have a good test score probably before you start your senior year of high school.
All right. And she's the expert, and I'm going to leave it to her. All right. But I'm going to ask that you, whatever she just said, I'm going to ask that you guys even do a little bit more earlier. What she said, plan. What was the saying? Plan for. And I don't want to go over you. I just, you know, because.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest. I was this summer, we were prepping an 8th grader. You know, he was in 8th grade, and he was already starting to test well. Quite frankly, he was scoring a 25 and a 26 already. Wow. You know, and there are early admission programs. You know, as 8th graders, you hit a certain score, you can get a full scholarship to Duke. I think Duke has an early admissions program. Really? So these are all things. You know, think about it. I tell my students, if you calculate the number of hours you spend studying, right? Let's say you put in 40 hours studying, and you get the ACT score that you need to get a full scholarship. A full scholarship at a D1 school is like $100,000, right? So break that up, $100,000 divided by 100 hours. That's a lot of money you're making to study per hour, right? Returns are good. So I always try to tell students, like, you know, your career starts already. You know, after you graduate high school, you can take out a loan, open a business, or you can go to college. But once you're in college, you are your business. You're already starting your career. Your career is life, you know? Sure, you're investing in yourself. I always tell my students, you know, step outside yourself, analyze and say, would I hire myself? You know, am I the type of person I would want to hire if I was if I was the boss and I'm looking at myself, am I a good employee? If not, step it up, right?
So when we're dealing with athletes, though, you know, because we don't think like, you know, employee, and, you know, we think we're just going to make it to the league, because we don't even look at, you know, baseball players or NFL players as being employees. We just look at them as professional athletes, but you are employees, and you know, they don't want dumb athletes, you know what I'm saying? And and I was talking to a parent last night about this, and I was talking from a baseball side, and I said, you know, forgive me, because, you know, when you're on the pro side, and I guess not necessarily the pro side, because I thought I'm being different, but I was like, listen, I speak in terms of money, you know what I'm saying? So just what you just said, as far as studying and $100,000 is what I told the kid about working out and earning the scholarship, you know, athletic money, you know? So I was like, yo, every time you're working out, every rep you take, every sprint every hit, whatever, is you're earning you're earning money, you know what I'm saying? You're making money. It just so happen to be scholarship money. And it's the same thing you're saying on that academic side. I like the way, you know, you put that. So we have some comments coming in.
Sure.
Mark said, I understand and agree. Seeing some of the same stress with our athlete, days of frustration and teachers attempting to add assignment after assignment makes me think the
Right.
teachers don't understand online education. All right.
Right.
So
That's the boat that so many parents are in. And I'm going to say they don't. They weren't prepared for this like anyone else, right? So again, I don't necessarily blame anybody, right? But I know as a parent, if I'm on a sinking ship with my kid, I'm going to jump, you know? And I'm going to jump to something that I know is going to work and float. And I know my program works and floats, you know? And I feel almost like shameless promoting myself like this, but like I feel like there's so many scams out there. There's so many unaccredited programs. There's so many programs. Man, the stress, the stress that these programs can cause on the parent and child can almost like kill a love for learning, you know? So you have a student who already doesn't like learning necessarily or schoolwork, and it really creates a problem, you know?
I mean, you're please don't, ask like, oh, I feel like I'm whatever, because this is a very important topic because, as a parent myself doing the online stuff, we've been off and on with this even before COVID, but we're
Right.
seeing the education side of, how do you see the online trend? Because billionaires are being made on the online college scene, you know what I'm saying, the online training. Do you
Right.
see, even past this COVID time with the online, do you really see a real tick up with the online training from high schools? Do you see this kind of being a norm, even after,
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to come back to the math. So for your athletes, let them know that that's about $1,000 an hour for studying, that they're making $1,000 per hour when they study. And that's not, I mean, $100,000 is conservative. Going to a D1 school costs way more than that, But let's just say conservatively, tell your students every hour they study for that ACT is like they're making $1,000. Just put the math.
That's awesome.
And I'm sorry, what was the question again, though? I got distracted by the calculator.
No, I mean, I just said, is this going to be more of the norm?
Yes, and it will, because I've been saying this for a long time too. Anyone who knows me knows I've been saying this. I think there's a problem in our public schools, and I don't think that public schools are geared towards particularly our young men, and especially personalities that are athletes who want to move around, right? Schools these days, it's like all about staying in line. Don't move. Don't touch this, And it's just so much compliance that boys like my son, who need to be active in order to learn, he needs to be moving in order to learn. I mean, that's common for a lot of boys, But so anyway, that combined with the fact that now parents can finally see, especially travel ball players, right? What if you had your own timeline? What if you just knew that every week, by the end of the week, you needed to get this done, but it was up to you what days you were going to get it done? What if you didn't even have, of course I believe in checks and balances, but I mean, that type of flexibility for the parent and the child, it's just what they need at this point. I mean, we know early morning practices, the kids are getting up at crazy times, they need a nap, or they need whatever, they need accommodations. And we're a very customer service based model. The student is my client. The student is my customer. I'm trying to provide the best customer experience for that child so that that child can learn. Because, I love my philosophy, which is that learning cannot occur without trust, and trust cannot occur without relationship. And how do we build relationship? Through consistent, positive, low stakes interactions. So we got to build trust and relationships with the kids, even virtually. They got to trust that the assignments aren't going to change, right? That if they hit an assignment and they got a grade, that's good, that's fine, let's move on. They don't want another assignment added. That uncertainty, that chaos, it's not conducive to learning. Everything should be streamlined, set out in the, you should. So for example, our program, everything is set out in a tablet form. It's like levels, right? So once you finish the lessons in this level, the second one pops up, right? And you hit that. You don't have to go through table of contents. You don't have to go through outside resources. Everything is contained within its own link, right? And that's the type of, you smooth out those problems so that the student can finally learn, right? But you build too many stressful interactions from the beginning, and the student is going to develop a mental block to the online program, which is what my son started saying. He was like, this program hates me. And he started like personifying it, right? Like, it hates me, it hates me. And he didn't even want to log on anymore. I was like, this is, he used to love to learn, you know?
All right. Bubba says, do you work with and help prepare a student that has an IEP for the ACT and SAT?
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of success helping our students with IEPs prepare. And additionally, making sure that the parent knows how to request accommodations on the actual exam as well. But for sure, we work with tons of students that have IEPs.
All right. And let me see. We got a couple more that's come in. Teachers, but let me see. All right. So if I'm I know you work, strongly with a lot of post-grad programs, right? And, speaking of the scheduling aspect of it, there is going to be a large uptick with baseball players on the post-grad with this, this COVID. So, which part of your services, do you provide like an online, for like different times? So say I'm a high school student or I'm a post-grad, dealing with college. Do you do the same type of teaching, or do you have somebody that you outsource the college, stuff to, or do you do, one of your online courses, that you provide teaching or counseling, you know what I'm saying? Do you just do high school and college? Do you do high school and college?
We do. So, and the reason why we kind of work with both is because some college courses can count dual credit, right? Additionally, on the post-grad side, especially for this year in particular with the NCAA COVID waivers, you can take up to 6 replacement courses to change your core course GPA. So
Can you explain that, please?
For parents who don't know, the core course GPA is made up of 16 classes that the NCAA has designated count under their GPA picture. So again, that link I hit, or the link that I shared, parents should go to that because it'll have a worksheet, a GPA worksheet, and parents can start filling it out and making sure that their student is on track. So basically you need 3 math credits, 4 English credits, 4 natural science credits, 4 social science credits, an extra English or math, and then other courses, right? So it completes 16 core courses. So to be D1 eligible, you have to take 7 of your 10 English, math, and science courses before you start your senior year of high school. And that's locked into time. I think that rule changed in like 2017 or 2016, but a lot of parents don't know this. So if you just started your senior year of high school and you didn't hit those 10 credits, the 7-10 rule for your English, math, and science credits, you can't ever go back in time and be D1 eligible. You're only going to be able to be D2 eligible from that point.
Really?
Yeah. And so let me break it down in reality. So in reality, I've got a student, they failed English their first year. They wait until their second year to take English 1 over again. Well, they're not gonna meet the rule because they're already 1 year behind, right? So it's really about making sure students are on track every single year. So for the student, if you failed a class, you should probably contact us and take a replacement course to get that in before you start your senior year of high school because it's a time-based rule.
What about the summer school? That was a big thing back, again, it's been a long time since
Yeah, summer school can count. But again, not once you've started your senior year. Once you've started your senior year, the 7-10 rule is over. It's locked into place. You either met it or you didn't. And you kind of have to move on from there. But then for meeting the GPA requirements, it used to be you could only take one replacement course to boost your GPA and try to meet that 2.3. But now you can take up to 6 replacement courses due to COVID because the NCAA realizes schools are scrambling. They don't know what they're doing. So to give students that leeway, they're going to give you up to 6 replacement courses and you can still go D1 if you met the 7-10 rule.
So, but I mean, do you feel like, the 6 courses are going to be a lot for a senior to try to either catch up or can you get ahead by taking some of these courses?
That's right. It's kind of all, what you decide to do as a student. The way I think the mindset of how you approach it, right? So I have some students when they're in recovery mode, 6 classes to them doesn't seem like anything because they already missed the first boat and they're trying to they understand now how important that boat is. Does that make sense? Yeah. So they're like, they can knock out 6 in 3 months and that's no problem for them, right? For my high school students who are like, 14 years old, 15 years old, I would say, do the courses in the summer, right? Do the replacement courses during the summer. So you don't stress yourself out because again, you still got to keep your other class grades up, right? So I would say do it during a time when you're not super busy. But again, for your serious athletes, like your tennis players, where you're traveling every week, I would consider moving to a private virtual program that's legitimately self-paced, because you're just shooting yourself in the foot otherwise. And, coaches are moving to virtual classes. So getting an edge on learning how to do virtual classes is only a skill that will increase in value, right?
And so what do you say to the parent that feels like, from the social aspect of it, needing school and, online feels great and all of that, but my kid drives me crazy at home or high level athletes, gymnasts already been doing it, tennis, those, now you have these baseball programs now too that are in high school that are 4 or 5 hours a day and going to these online, programs. But what do you say to those parents that, feel like those kids need that social aspect of it?
I think every parent knows their kid. But the best advice I would give a parent is what I learned is we don't have to do tomorrow what we did today. And I keep my options open always with my kids, So I'm always assessing, like, is this working the best for my kid and for my family and what our collective goals are, right? And if they're not working, I'm starting to look at other options, And so that's what I would just say, if it changes. So now my kids are in a small Montessori school because they did need that socialization. We were self-isolated for 4 or 5 months as a family. I have 4 kids and we were going nuts. And they were like, we don't want you to be our teacher anymore. And that's what they need right now. Are we going to do that next year? I don't know. I'm not sure. All my kids have different needs and I think we're just going to assess. But for right now it's working and my kids are thriving. So I'm happy. And so I would just say parents, always touch base with your kids. Like, if they're unhappy and they're stressed out and they're losing their passions, it doesn't have to be that way. There are other options out there, And
that's kind of, why, I see the benefits from a scheduling and, what, my child does, but I also see the negative side too, because sometimes the social aspect of it, but
right. Yeah.
this is, that's why I kind of wanted to bring this up. Appreciate you bringing this content, Coach, and thank you to Ms. Dorius. All right.
My pleasure.
All right. So, so if somebody like, wants to contact you and want to learn more about your program, all the, parameters that goes along with this, how can you be reached, and you know, so they can reach out to you and just, you know, kind of get an idea of, you know, what all do you offer? Because you work with kids no matter what part of the country they're in, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're nationally accredited. And like we do work with students all over the country. And they can reach me by going to my website or calling me. I'd love to touch base because I do feel like every student is different. Every family is different. We all have different needs. So I'd love to be like the first touch point for all clients coming in to really figure out what's going to happen. From there, we'll generally do like a transcript evaluation where we'll take your high school transcripts or your previous school transcripts and we'll start assessing them. So typically, like kind of what you would see from an athletic recruiting side, we kind of look at you academically as a whole profile and then figure out, you know, what do you need? What would be the best steps for you moving forward? How can we make sure that you're on the right path to get that D1, you know, scholarship?
Now, it doesn't matter where your kids are right now, grades wise, anything, you know, because, you know, sometimes parents we get ashamed of, you know, where our kids are. And
that's the great thing with our program, wherever you're starting, we wipe the slate and we start from zero again, you know, so you wouldn't carry any of those grades into the new English class, et cetera, right? We're starting you from, you know, ground zero and you build up from that point. So.
All right, this is Tina's number here. You know, so if you have any kids that are, you know, if you're interested in hearing more about her program, she put the website up, and we also put the phone number right here. Again, this is you know, this is basically where I feel like most of this stuff is going. I know many of our moms and dads, and you know, we don't necessarily, you know, especially you know, normal baseball parents are used to the, you know, school going to dropping our kid off and everything like that. But these higher level kids, I mean, I have plenty of one of my moms right here, Nadine, she, you know, her kid goes, you know, travels away, does online stuff there and practicing 3 or 4 hours a day. This is, you know, everything is getting more hours on the field, and, you know, the things are changing. Academy style, everything's academy style. So,
and you know, to be honest, roll tide. To be honest, you know, my kid would rather spend 6 hours playing hockey than 6 hours stuffed under a desk doing worksheets that he's not really understanding. You know what I mean? So part of this, like, I support, you know, I'm like, okay, if our kids do, if they want to be active, you know, and play their passions, play their sports for 8 hours a day and then spend a couple hours at night doing schoolwork, like, that's cool. That's fine, you know? And then later on, when they get to be 21, 22, maybe at that point, their interest in scholarly pursuits will ignite and they, you know, they can transition and pivot their skill sets to academics. But I'm a big believer in, like, let your kid follow their passions, you know? And always keep them curious, you know, don't stuff them in a box, for sure.
Yeah, no. You got a fan. Yeah, you got a fan behind the scenes talking about I like her. My daughter's listening in right now. So she, you know, so but yeah, it's you know, because this is, you know, I think pretty much most parents are, this is hitting home, you know what I'm saying, with different things that you're saying and dealing with. So, but listen.
Oh, and I'll make one more point, if I can. It's just that our ACT tutoring has not slowed down at all. So despite people saying, like, oh, you don't have to take the ACT, the people who can pay for our services are, and they're continuing to do so, right? They're continuing to test. And I just looked on OU's website and they're still continuing to encourage students for scholarships and admissions. We strongly encourage you to take the ACT, right? So again,
talk about that, because I didn't hit that point too tough, because everybody's like, oh, you know, you don't have to take it now. You don't have to take it, you know, but you're saying, no, certain schools are saying, like, you know, you still need to take this. you know,
Right. And like, as someone who has worked in higher ed, you have professionals who they're used to assessing students this way with ACT scores, essays, GPA. Suddenly, you make ACT optional, but many students are still submitting ACT scores, right? So you have a student from a well-to-do school, right? Everyone has those well-to-do schools, right? Here, let's say like Spain Park, right? You have a student who's got a 3.0 from Spain Park, takes the ACT, gets a 20, and is applying, and then you have a student from, I don't know, a school that doesn't perform well, right? Historically, and everybody knows it, right? And they come in with the same GPA, but no ACT score. Who do you think the admissions officer is going to choose, right? There's nobody even like assessing that they're making sure that they're not going to discriminate against people who don't submit an ACT score. So you're kind of like trusting the college to be fair about it. But really the easiest way for them to make decisions would be based on ACT scores and GPAs combined, right? Because it shows a fuller picture of who you are. And then for scholarships, those requirements are still there. They haven't changed, for academic scholarships. So people are still taking them. Don't be tricked. People are still studying for it. The people who know are still preparing for it. It's not really going anywhere at this point.
All right. Where in Bama are you located?
We're in Helena, Alabama.
All right.
Right outside of Pelham, where you went last week, right?
Last month. Yeah, last month. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, last month. And so we're about 45 minutes outside of Birmingham.
Nice. All right. He's Bubba's in Montgomery area. So.
Okay. Well, I'm moving to Montevallo soon, so we'll be closer to Montgomery soon.
Yeah, you saying some cities that, yeah. But anyway, listen, so again, I'm going to put her information. I highly encourage, and even if you tag somebody or message, on if you're not even, you're going to be listening on the replay, definitely get in touch. Let me put the site up here. All right.
And the easiest thing to do too would be just to start by requesting a transcript evaluation. And that's just $100. And, we start from there. And if you're on track, we tell you, great, you're on track. Keep up the good work. And if you're not on track, we'll be like, be careful. Here are the gauntlets that you're facing, etc. So yeah, the transcript evaluation would be a great way to just kind of start.
All right, cool. All right. And, so Bubba and whoever else, just remember, just tell her, that you heard about Tina over there, Miss Tina over here from Dee Brown Show. All right.
That's right. I was gonna say, for anyone who mentions Coach's name, they get a 10% discount off of all of our services. So don't forget.
Say that again, Tina, please.
I said you got to mention Coach's name, Dee Brown, to get a 10% discount off of any of our services.
I love it. All right. Let me see. Dorius said, hold on. Hold up 1 second. Here. So Dorius says, my son went to junior college and didn't do well in all his classes, and now he has an offer to play at a 4-year school. How can your program help him to get his grades up in order to get accepted into the next school?
So we'd probably have to do kind of an evaluation with his college transcript as well. And so again, he would start with like the transcript evaluation, and we would take his college transcript as well as his high school transcripts to figure out the best path forward. You do have to be careful because once you start failing your college classes, that starts to affect your financial aid. And that's we could do a whole other show on staying on satisfactory academic progress, which is how you maintain your federal financial aid. So I always caution students, be careful when you take those college classes, because once you start failing, that's a tougher hole to dig out of, as it pertains to getting your federal aid money, your loan money, or your grant money from the federal government.
All right, Chad, what up? What up? All right. Nadine says great opportunity. Russ says, excuse me. What is the NFL PA scholarship on your site? Do you help get scholarships?
So that's an incredible scholarship that the NFL Former Professional Athletes Foundation sets up. There's affiliate chapters in pretty much every city, I think. The scholarship on my website is the Birmingham chapter, so that's specific to students in our area. Do we help get scholarships? We can, as part of like the counseling process. Typically, we send you a list of scholarships that you can apply for, and then we kind of assist you in the essay process. But if you're looking for a specific company that searches for scholarships, that's not really us. We're more like once you have an opportunity, we help you get it.
All right. What score do you need on your ACT test and GPA to get a full academic scholarship?
So that varies by school. But I'll just throw a school out there. I think, let's say like Birmingham Southern. I can actually probably look it up right now. Birmingham Southern does they're a private school that now does their scholarship programs completely by ACT scores. And so it's just tiered, and it's super easy to see where you would fall. I'm sorry, I'm trying to navigate this.
I'm good.
But I think it's like, let's say you've got a 3.5, and a 26 to 20. I guess it would really depend on the student, to be honest. If you're a 5-star athlete, I mean, like 2.6 and an 18, you're going to be able to get a full ride.
I think in certain schools, though, I think like, I know here I am with my little 2 cents, but just the school I was talking about yesterday, they had different scholarship programs, but 3.8 and a 20 in this particular school now was a 3.8, and I think a 26 to 28 and above would get you pretty much everything paid for. Now this wasn't Duke or high level, but it was a decent school. So obviously, I just think it depends on the school, right?
Yeah, and I will say, like I know in particular, maybe for athletics, if you can get for Duke. I'll say Columbia, because I know Columbia. I think Columbia with a 26 and above a 3.6, as an athlete, you can get a full scholarship to go to Columbia. And, they're comparable to Duke or Clemson.
Yeah, but
parents should definitely think about these Ivy League schools as well.
But I believe they do financial packages, right? So this, it's be all academic, right? So I was just talking about Columbia to a parent this morning. I may end up have them call you, but yeah, they were talking because the kid is doing really well in school, but I think again, it really doesn't pertain to this, but sometimes they get so narrow-minded into their local schools, and and I'm like,
right,
what you think of bigger and Ivy League or
yes, and let me plug my HBCUs, because I'm a huge proponent of HBCUs. I was made at an HBCU in my career. I started my career at an HBCU, Miles College. And so again, don't sleep on the HBCUs. They offer incredible scholarships. A lot of them will look at you as a whole package student. Athletics are still incredible. Again, people have very strong opinions about athletics and HBCUs. But I'm a huge proponent of HBCUs, and I do know that they give out incredible financial packages for academics.
All right, love it. All right. TC says, "What up, D? One of my guys' son got the NFL scholarship here in Nashville, and he plays."
Yes. That's the cool thing about that scholarship. I forgot to tell y'all is that it's for all athletes, not just football, any athlete. And they do it every single year. And the first place winner for each chapter gets $2,500. So it's a very cool scholarship. Don't sleep on that one in your local area.
All right. So listen, Tina, we're rolling up on that hour. I want you to think about the message that you're going to give. I have all my guests always end with a great message. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time and to think of that message as I say my parting gifts, not gifts, parting ways. Anyway, I want Monday. We'll be back on at 4 p.m. Just remember the showcase will be in Dallas. Next week we had just locked down one more scout that will be in attendance from the Mets. I believe we got, like we said, got 2 or 3 schools that will be in attendance, plus the 20 something that will be on a live stream, and we also have the scouts that will be in attendance at in Dallas. So again, if you haven't signed up yet, I know I may be starting to get a few more guests from the marketing and stuff that's coming, and then checking out who Dee Brown is, and you coming on the show. I've seen some few new faces and stuff like that, and you kind of see the type of guests that I have on here. Yesterday, and we had Coach Baumgartner on from Feather Lane College out there in California. But listen, next weekend, very important. Sign up. So we get this ball rolling in Texas, and we kind of go into the Waco. I already got a handful of people already signed up for the Waco one on November 21st. So we're going to hit Texas hard and with this. So I want everybody to have a safe weekend, and I want everybody to listen in on 4 p.m. Eastern as we kind of roll back in there. So Tina, all right. For my listeners that are still on here and taking out the time, and if you could just kind of give a message that to take us home with, all right, with these parents still listening in.
I would say time is your most important friend, right? So it's never too early to touch base and make sure that your student is on the right track. So if you have any hesitation or any questions about the recruiting process from an academic side, start asking those questions early from your school counselor, professionals like me, professionals like you. Start asking the questions. And when people start zigzagging around the answers, go to somebody else. That means they don't know what they're talking about. You can definitely tell when someone knows what they're talking about academically or not. And the bottom line is that the academics are the gatekeeper. It doesn't matter if you are the best athlete in the world. If you don't have that GPA, they are not going to let you set foot in the door. You'll never get on the field. You'll never get to play, So if it's important to you that you have an athletic career in college, you have to start as a freshman or even earlier on the academic side. And don't feel like it's a waste, because all those skill sets build together. Your brain is a whole muscle. Everything complements each other. So all those skills that you learn will never get put to waste, even if you do go pro, that same set of analytic skills, the way you advocate for yourself, that's all going to be skills that you learn during the academic process as well. So don't be scared of it. Grab it by the horns. Start early. The earlier, the better. But even if you feel like it's too late, call us anyway. And you never know. There might be a way back, right, to recovery.
All right. And that is the phone number there. So said beautifully, and I appreciate you taking out the.
Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you for your time and your trust, for letting me on the platform. I really appreciate it.
All right, parents. So hit her up. All right. Especially during these COVID times. And again, how I feel about the baseball, let's talk baseball. All right. SAT and ACT and GPAs, everything. That is everything in here. And My boy, he's not on here, but I just talked about him earlier. He's texting me now, but he runs a program and stuff, and I'm helping these kids get into schools. The first thing I'm starting to look like a college coach myself, because when I'm helping try to get kids into school, the first thing I'm looking at right now is GPA.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, because it's hard to fight for somebody that, you know, that doesn't have those type of, you know, numbers, right? So, you know, when I'm running these showcases and I'm looking about, you know, kids, and talent is one, but I'm also looking for grades. If I know I'm like, this kid has really, really good grades, I know it's easy. You know what I'm saying?
This is what I love it, Coach, because I always say, if I tried to set a man up with a woman, what's the first question they would ask? What's she look like, right?
Right. Okay.
Coaches, when you say I have a kid, what's the first question they ask? What do their grades look like, right? That's the bottom line. For coaches that are recruiting, they know that the great athletes are everywhere. You know, let's make sure we're getting the best of the best, which is academics and athletics. Yes, we do complete college applications also.
All right, that's the last question for today. So hit her up and on the website and the phone number. I hope you guys wrote that down. Tina's been a blessing, and I appreciate you so much for coming on. All right.
Have a great weekend.
All right, you guys hear that? All right, you guys have a safe weekend. I'll see you guys Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tina, for coming on.
Thank you.